Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast, where today we're going to go over UFC Vegas 32, Sandhagen versus Dillashaw. Not just like any other episode. We're going to make sure we let you know how we did last week, but it's another solid week. We generally try to make about 6 solid bets. We have a tendency to do 2 underdogs, 2 locks of the night, and 2 round totals we really like. We hit on both our underdogs. We hit on both our underdogs with Marzov and with Billy Q. We hit on both of our locks. And then we did miss the Gordon and Figueroa under total. That was the only thing we missed all night. So another profitable weekend. And we're looking to just keep the train rolling, baby. I, for whatever reason, seem to do better on these smaller cards opposed to the pay-per-views for whatever reason. And this is a free card, so let's get paid. Again, in order to see those official bets, you got to go over, follow Stats and Stacks over on Twitter, over on Instagram. Otherwise, don't want to waste a second of your time. We can get right into this card, which honestly is a super good card, one I'm really intrigued about, one I'm really excited for, and a lot of different factors going into this card. They might as well call this card UFC Vegas 32 the weigh-ins, because that Friday night is going to be very important for a plethora of different matchups here. I mean, we'll start the very first fight of the night. You have Diana Belbita coming in as well, the lines are crazy. Right now it's set as a pick'em. So minus 115 for Diana Belbita, minus 115 for Hannah Goldie. We have the over 2.5 at minus 315, the under 2.5 at plus 230. We'll start with Goldie, actually. This is going to be a straw weight debut for both of these women. So there's not really an advantage either way there. I would say Goldie's definitely the thicker of the two. So it's probably going to be, I don't know, it's short and thick against really tall and lanky. It's going to be tough for both of them to make the weight, in all honesty. But we'll start with Goldie. She only has one UFC fight. And it's against Miranda Granger, who I do not think is UFC caliber. And it was an L. She just got bullied. She got pushed up against the cage and dominated the entire time. Outside of her loss, she doesn't really have any good wins. She does have a win over Jillian Robertson, but it was literally like Jillian's first fight. So, I mean, and it was a stand-up battle. So we all know that Jillian is not good on the feet. And it was relatively close on the feet, which is also a little alarming, but it was her first fight as well 5 years ago. So I'll give her a little bit of a pass there. Otherwise, I don't really recognize any of these women she's beating. Won her Contender Series fight. They told her she needed more experience, so then they let her in anyway, and she lost. She's predominantly a striker. Didn't really see much on the ground. Her cardio seemed to check out. She generally likes to lead the dance, but if you pressure her a lot, she can be backed up. She doesn't believe in head movement, so that's alarming for any sort of opponent she faces with power. She just relies on being a volume puncher with not the greatest technique. I mean, the stand-up's a little stiff in my opinion, but I mean, she tries, so and really not much to say there. Not as if I have much to say about her opponent in Belbita either. I mean, losing to Miranda Granger is pretty bad. Getting 30-26 by Molly Meatball Buchanan might be even worse. And then she went out and lost to Luana via armbar, and all of Luana's wins are basically via armbar. So her fight IQ doesn't seem to be the best, which is super concerning. I mean, she's 25, so you can try to chalk that up to being young. But at the same time, I mean, Liana had one path to victory and she gave it to her. So, but before that, the first minute of the fight, she looked fine on the feet. She's another one. They basically fight the same way. They want to stand up. She has an armbar win on her record as well. So, I mean, it seems as if she knows what's going on down there. That's just not her go-to. She has about 3 of them, actually. So I would definitely give her the jiu-jitsu edge. She has about 7 inches of reach on Hannah Goldie, which is significant. So again, I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this fight. They're both debuting at strawweight. We need to see how they both look on the scales. Otherwise, the line started off at like plus 180 for Belbita. I was all over that all day. But I waited on it just because I wasn't in a rush to bet this fight, and unfortunately now it's a pick 'em, so there's no value on either side. The pick would be Belbita. The bet, the over doesn't have a lot of value with minus 315, so I'd probably just take Belbita straight up. Unfortunately, lost a lot of value on there, so pick Belbita, and the bet would be Belbita, but stay away from this. It's low women's MMA. And that, speaking of low women's MMA, that takes us to our next fight. We have Soraya Eubanks going up against Elise Reed. We have Sarge as a minus 375 favorite, comeback on Reed at plus 250. The over 2.5 at minus 215, under 2.5 at plus 125. We'll start with Sarge. Honestly, it's not that she's terrible. She might be the best 6-6 fighter I've ever seen. She just doesn't have a weight class. She started off at 125 at flyweight, and she just couldn't make the weight. She's been hospitalized. She's came in overweight. She's looked real shaky up there. She just can't make 125. She did make the move up to 135, but she has a losing record at 135 in the UFC. Granted, she's fighting good girls. I mean, Julia Avila is good. Ketlin Vieira is good. Pandy Kanzat is good. Like, she's fighting good people up at 135, but she's struggling. I mean, the loss to Betch Carrera doesn't look the greatest. Aspen Ladd whooped her ass. I saw that in live, which is cool. It's just her better days were at 125. She just struggles to get there. So it is a little bit concerning that she decided to drop back down to 125 at an old age. I mean, she's 36. She's great on the ground, man. This girl is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and it shows. When she's on top of you, you don't get up. For whatever reason, looking at it, she has 6 wins. She only has 1 finish. So she doesn't have a tendency to like tap you out, or even her one was a ground and pound. She has 2 by ground and pound, but she usually just controls you down on the ground, and that's about it. Just holds you there. Otherwise, she just uses her power to her advantage, and she's very strong. She's a decent wrestler, great at jiu-jitsu. Her striking it leaves a little to be desired. She's strong again, so she could clip you, but it's not very good. And she's extremely hittable herself. So the biggest problem with her is her gas tank. Whether she's at 35 or 25, her gas tank is awful. She gasses badly. So she just has to stay on top of you and just control position over submission, basically, is what she's predominantly does. I don't know if that's the approach she'll take with Elise Reed, because Reed is awful on the ground. She is not good whatsoever. She's only 4-0. I mean, CFFC is a really great promotion to start at before you come over to the UFC. So she's legitimate. Only problem is that title that you're seeing here from CFFC, that's the strawweight belt. She's taking this fight on short notice and going up to flyweight. So you have Eubanks, who is a big girl for the weight class and struggles to make the weight at 25, going against someone that generally fights at 115, is taken on short notice and going up in weight. So there is going to be a big size discrepancy there. And with Elise, she is really good striking. She loves the pressure. Unstoppable gas tank. This girl just swings and swings. Not a lot of power, but punches and bunches is what she lives by. But she's inexperienced, and she can't wrestle too well. And she has nothing to offer on the ground. I mean, she was a white belt just 2 years ago. So you would think Sarge would be able to take her down and just tap her out. And again, Sarge doesn't have submissions, which is weird considering she's a black belt. So you have someone that's great on the feet with a phenomenal gas tank against someone who is a great wrestler and has a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So this is your classic striker versus grappler. I think the size is just too much. So I am going to side with Sarge to win. The problem is her gas tank and the fact that this other girl pressures and has the fact that Eubanks is coming down to 25. So I don't know how she's going to look. Again, she's been hospitalized making this weight cut. So this is another one. You got to see the scales. First 2 fight of the night, the scales are really going to make a difference on how you bet. Me personally, thinking that Eubanks might be a little drained from making this weight, I'm actually going to take the under. And it's plus money. It's plus 125. It was at plus 165 earlier. So if you're going to take the under, I would do it ASAP. It's losing value as we speak. Just because Eubanks should very well tap her out or take her down and ground and pound and get a finish. Or if she gasses that badly trying to make this cut, again, Elise has unstoppable cardio and is just punches and bunches, and the ref could stop in if she just keeps pouring it on her. So cover yourself both ways, because minus 375 for a gassed Eubanks is not what I want. So the pick is Eubanks, but I'm not going to bet. But if I were to bet, I am looking at the plus 125. I'm tempted. It's just not enough value for me personally. I waited a little too long on the line. And then here's the next fight. We have Julio Arce going up against Andre Ewell. Yet another one where we're looking at the scale. Julio Arce is someone that is a minus 215 favorite. Comeback on Ewell being plus 165. Over 2.5 is minus 225. Under 2.5 is plus 175. And Arce is good, man. From, I believe if he's not from New York, he trains in New York. I'm one of the two. Yep, born in New York. But he used to fight at at bantamweight. He went up to featherweight, had some success. I mean, he knocked out Juicy J. Daniel Tamer's not bad. Dan Ige is a top 5 guy, is a win over him. The loss to Moraes doesn't look the greatest. And the split to Hakeem, Hakeem's good. But he was just getting overpowered there. And he knew he had to drop back down to 35. So it is always concerning when they drop back down later on. I mean, he's 31, so if he's going to make the bantamweight move, he has to do it now, and I think he understands that. So this could be a good thing for him, or he could be drained, and it could be a bad thing. I don't really know what to think of it. I need to see how he looks on the scales, like the rest of the fights. He's not bad anywhere. I mean, he's good at striking. He is sneaky good on the ground. He pressures, but not like just aggressively. It's very, very calculated. Like he'll pressure and then he'll dance out for a little bit and then he'll come back in and pressure. It's very interesting. It seems to work for him. He does look a touch uncomfortable when moving backwards. But again, that's probably why when he goes backwards, he comes back in forward. His cardio checks out. It's not the greatest, but it's not bad at all. He's there the whole 15 minutes. He'll go. So yeah, he's really an underrated fighter in general. I do have concerns about his long layoff. He hasn't fought in 2 years due to surgeries. I think he had like both elbows and something. He had like 2 arm surgeries or something like that. So it's a little concerning. So I do need to see how he looks on the scale before I would bet him. I know Ewell has a reach. No matter who he's going to fight, he's going to have the reach. He has some lanky ass arms, man. These things they shouldn't be legal at the bantamweight division. And he uses them well. I mean, he does point fight a little bit, but I mean, he doesn't have a lot of power. He's just a skinny, lanky guy, and he knows that. So he's one of these guys that actually uses his length well. His stand-up's good. His takedown defense is at like 70%, so it's all right. It's like 65, 70. It's okay. It's presentable. His Brazilian jiu-jitsu leaves a little to be desired. So, if Julio wants to take him down, that would be very interesting. I would definitely keep that in my back pocket. He does slow. His cardio, usually at bantamweight, you have good cardio. His isn't the best. I can't say he gasses, but he does slow quite a bit. And he has a tendency to back up. He tends to paw at you with a jab as he's backing up. So Julio, who kind of likes to pressure, it kind of balances out there. They'll both be pretty comfortable on the feet. The problem with him is his freaking decisions, man. Chris Gutierrez, he got pretty dominated, but the Erwin Rivera fight, split decision. Jonathan Martinez fight, split decision. Renan Barão, split decision. He loves split decisions. No matter what, he's split decision losses prior to. Like, all of his fights are close, and it's really it's quality versus quantity. He usually outlands his opponents, but they're such soft little pitter-patter shots that you don't know how the judges are scoring it. So I hate betting on fights with him. I hate betting against him. I hate betting with him. I really don't know what to do with this dude. I don't hate him as a fighter. I like people that use what they're supposed to and fight the way they're supposed to. But plus 160, I looked at, I was tempted, but Julio has more ways to win. So I will choose Arce to win the fight. A bet, I can't choose either side with the layoff and the split decisions on both sides. So I will just honestly take the over. If you're gonna bet Julio, it's minus 215. So you might as well just take the over 2.5, and that's minus 225. It's damn near the same value. And you don't have to pick a side because I don't see either man finishing, at least inside. Even when Andre got finished by Vera, it was pretty later on. It was in the third round. The over would have hit. Same with Nathaniel Wood. It was a rear naked choke in the third round, and the over would have hit. So I would definitely just take the over. And that takes us to what's probably going to be fight of the night. In all honesty, we have Randy Costa coming in at 6-1 as a plus 175 dog against Adrian Yanez, 13-3 as a minus 225 favorite. The over, even though it's a bantamweight fight, is set at 1.5. The over being minus 140, under 1.5 being at plus 110. We'll start with Randy. I like this guy a lot, man. He has a great attitude. He just says that he's essentially he doesn't want to go in and ever like just do Connor stuff and make all this drama. He wants to be friends with his opponents, come in and knock him out. It's like this dude is the definition of a killer. He's never made it to a decision looking at his fights. Round one knockout. Then he himself, he was rocking Brandon Davies, but then ended up getting finished in the second early on, a minute in. Round one knockout. Like that's what he does. The strength of schedule leaves a little bit to be desired. I don't know how he made it into the UFC being 4-0 with just like 4 minutes, not even 1, 2, like 3 or 4 minutes worth of cage time with opponents with negative records. They were 0-4, 0-0, 5-9, 0-1. So that's a little suspect. Brandon Davies is sneaky good in all honesty. And then for him to come out and start dominating him kind of opened your eyes, but then he gassed out like we kind of expected him to. The Boston Salmon fight, he came out, finished him early like he always does. But Boston also kind of flamed out. He went 2-0 and got cut. The Journey Newsom fight, I mean, Journey Newsom's okay. But again, just he finished them in 40 seconds. So you always talk about these people with what people like the Die Hard podcast and Dogger Pass podcast, they talk about the death touch. And I'll tell you right now, it's weird to say, but someone at 35 has a death touch because they do, and it's Costa. This dude, if he touches you, you go out. The problem is he only has about 5 minutes to work with. The opposite for Yanez, little mini Jorge is what people have been calling him. He is really, really good striking. It's not just striking in power. He is really good striking in general. He has some third round finishes. The way you can beat him is by taking him down. I know Miles Johns did that. Who else did he lose to over in LFA? All of his losses are to credible people that are like in the UFC currently. Miles Johns, Pilarte, lost a split. I didn't see that fight, but I guess it was super, super close. People actually gave it to Yanez. I actually don't know who Levi Moles is, but again, that was a second fight ever. So so it's not really on him. But regardless, his striking's good. His jiu-jitsu is okay. He has a few finishes on his record, a few arm bars and triangle chokes. He's a counter striker, which is honestly probably good for going against someone like Costa, who just pressures. He just bull rushes you and tries to knock you out in a minute. So someone that sees everything coming and is really good countering is perfect for Yanez. Again, the only negative I would say, he has great cardio too, something that Costa can't say. The only Achilles heel would be his wrestling, but that's not something Costa's going to take advantage of. Again, I love Costa. I think he's one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC. I think he's a great interview, watching the press conferences and his post-fight interviews. I will always cheer for the guy. But I do like Yanez a lot too, and I definitely like him in this fight. So the pick is going to be Yanez. And the bet, I want to take the under and get plus money. I probably will take a stab at it. But if you want to be super safe, you can just do Yanez via like a parlay, because I don't like laying the chalk at minus 225. So I'd rather put Adrian in a parlay or just take the under if you're looking for plus money. And that probably will be fight of the night. It's going to be fireworks for as long as it lasts. Then next fight of the night, We have another one where we actually don't have to watch the scales for once. We have Ian Heinisch, the Hurricane, coming up against Nasruddin Imavov. We'll start with the Hurricane just because I love Ian, man. Ian is a minus 145 favorite. Imavov is a plus 115 dog. The over under set at 2.5. We have minus 225 to the over. Under 2.5 is plus 175. Ian sneaky good on the ground, on the feet. I think specifically because he's been training at Tiger Muay Thai and Samford and Factory X. He's one that's kind of danced around, picks people's brains, and then goes on to the next camp. He's on a little bit of a tough stretch. But the thing is, he's fighting good guys. I mean, Kevin Gastelum's top 5, top 10. Derek Brunson is top 5, top 10. Amari is top 15. And the common thread between all of them is the wrestling, man. I know Ian has a wrestling background. He wrestled, he was a state champ in high school. Then I know he got into some legal issues, didn't exactly wrestle in college, some drug and legal issues. But it's still embedded in him. He knows how to wrestle, just not at that level. So they're able to take him down multiple times. He pops back up. Don't get me wrong. If you're getting taken down that much, that means you're getting back up, which is good for him. It's just they're able to control enough on the ground. Imavov won't be able to do that to him. I mean, his cardio is good. It checks out. It's weird. He slows and then he gets like a second win all the time and like end of the second, third round. It's very peculiar. I can't say he has bad cardio at all. I can't say he has great cardio because he slows. It's like he takes a minute off in his fights and then all of a sudden he's rejuvenated for the end of the rest of the fight. It's really peculiar. But yeah, he is really good Muay Thai. Good wrestling. Because jiu-jitsu, he tried to show off. He almost got a Kimura and Gastelum, but I mean, it's all there. He's just an overall good fighter. I love the fact that he's at Sanford right now. I love that camp. That camp and Fight Ready are my two favorites. So the fact that he moved over there is nice. And then you look at his opponent. I mean, the way to beat Ian is to take him down multiple times and just kind of control him. Nasruddin isn't the greatest wrestler. I know he took down Jordan Williams multiple times, but Jordan Williams is ass when it comes to wrestling. So that's not really saying much. Otherwise, I mean, it's not that Nasruddin is bad at all. It's just his last few fights. The Jordan Williams fight, even in a win, he didn't impress me. The Phil Hawes fight, I actually picked him, and I guess I'm a little biased. I picked him to get the upset, and he didn't. And he didn't look the greatest. His gas tank is also a little suspect. His schedule's a little questionable. I mean, the guys he's fighting it's not like he's fighting all these cans that are undefeated, that are, 0-0 and 4-8, stuff like that. And when you look at his record, they're all 0-1, 1-1, 2-1, 3-2, 5-2, 6-2. They're not like big numbers, not a lot of experience. Granted, I mean, he doesn't have a ton of experience either. He only has 12 fights. So Ian, he had like 18, I want to say. So, I mean, I definitely don't think Imavov is the worst fighter in the world. But Ian's fighting for his job. He knows if he loses another one, he would have lost quite a few, like 4 of his last 5. So he knows if he takes an L, that's it, which makes me think he's going to go back to his wrestling roots. And this is the type of guy that he can take down. So with just more ways to win, the pick is going to be Ian. The over and the over is probably the way I would go. But it is minus 225. So I don't want to lay that chalk. So I'm just going to pick Ian, and I'm just going to bet him straight up at minus 145. Maybe I probably won't even parlay him. That's probably one you just leave alone and just bet by himself, or just leave alone in general, in all honesty. So pick Ian, bet Ian. Next fight of the night, we have Brendan All-In Allen going up against Puno Soriano. We have Brendan as the last. See, these lines are everywhere. It depends on what your book is looking at. Right now, my book has Brendan Allen as a minus 120 favorite and Puno as minus 110, I guess, underdog. It's really just a pick 'em. Over 1.5 is minus 135. Under 1.5 at plus 105. We'll start with Brendan. It's pretty interesting because he's over at Sanford now too, as well. Because him and Ian hated each other, and they were supposed to fight like 3 times. So it's weird that now they're training at the same camp. But I don't know if it's training together or what they're doing. But his last fight, I mean, the win over Carl Robeson, it's not like it's a bad win at all. But Carl, for whatever reason, initiated the ground game. And Allen is a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt. That's his best quality. So I don't know why he was going for like ankle locks and 50-50 positions against a black belt. Brendan was just happy to oblige and tap him out easily in the first round. Otherwise, I mean, he kind of pressures. It's just he's lanky, so it looks weird. You think he would be like Ewell and just kind of use his jab and keep his distance and strike. I mean, his striking's getting better. It's okay. He doesn't have a ton of head movement, but he's a jiu-jitsu guy who's kind of like, he sees the improvements in the striking, so he's starting to strike a lot more. And those guys scare me a lot. I don't like that at all. If that's not your bread and butter, I don't care if you're getting better at it. It doesn't mean just totally abandon what got you to the dance. I mean, his wrestling isn't the greatest, so maybe that's why he's really not the best wrestler. And it's just he's so damn hittable on the feet. His IQ is just a little, it scares me a little bit. But the same can be said about his opponent in Soriano. He's someone that's just known as having the death touch as well to an extent. He only has 8 professional fights. Only 1 has seen the distance. All the other have ended by knockout. I know growing up, apparently he has a wrestling pedigree where he was like a D3 national champion. So the dude can wrestle. He just chooses not to. And I think part of that might be his gas tank. It doesn't seem to be the greatest, in all honesty. The one fight where he did go to a decision with Jamie Pickett in the Contender Series, this dude was gassed. It's not that he was slowing down or tired. The dude was gassed at the end. And I know a lot of people, like when they get older, they tend to wrestle less because they know it's going to hurt their gas tank. I think he just knows right away. I mean, it's not like he's any spring chicken. He's 28. I mean, he's still relatively young, in all honesty. I'm 28, so but it's not as if it's just it feels like he knows his gas tank isn't good enough. So that's why he's not using his wrestling, and he knows that he's strong as hell. So he's just coming in and winging. There's no technique, in all honesty. It is literally just him coming in, destroying everyone in under a minute. All of his wins by knockout. His very first win was by submission. He has another one over here. And I guess he's decent on the ground too. It's just we never see it because he just wants to stand and bang, and he's winning doing it. So both of these guys do what I don't like. They abandon what they're originally good at. So it's really just picking your poison, and it's basically a pick 'em fight. If I had to side, I would side with Soriano just because he has more power, and Brendan has shown a suspect chin. He's been knocked out multiple times. So the pick would be Soriano, and it's growing on me. I don't like that it's growing on me with all these just looping hooks. I think one of them catches him. So the pick will be Soriano. The bet would be Soriano by KO. Honestly, I would do a prop just to juice it up a little and keep it by itself. I don't trust Soriano in parlays at all. But when it comes to the bet itself, I'd rather get plus money. So just take Soriano by knockout at that point, because that's the only way he's going to win. All right. And then the next fight is yet another fight where you have to watch the scales. We have Mickey Gall, who somehow is still in the UFC at plus 135, coming in against Jordan Williams at minus 170. Over 2.5 is plus 105. Under 2.5 is minus 135. We'll just start with the scale problems. You had Jordan Williams. It's not really a scale problem that's due to him. It's just the man's a diabetic. He has type 1 diabetes. So it's really, really tough for him to cut weight. They suggested he not cut weight. But when you look at his last previous fights, I mean, he's fighting monsters at middleweight, and he's coming in here weighing 180 pounds. So, I mean, a different weight class where he's not as at a disadvantage is just 10 pounds away. So this dude is working diligently. I can only imagine how hard this man is truly working just to make the welterweight limit with his condition. So first off, all the power, all the kudos in the world to Jordan Williams for making the cut. It's really impressive if he makes the weight. He just hasn't made it yet. So we will see how he looks. That's really, really important. And honestly, just for his safety, it's going to be so tough for him to do. So if he does make the weight and look great, I will be utterly impressed just with him as a person. When it comes to him as a fighter, different sentiments, not good at all. He has a tendency to stick his head in bad positions against people that are good on the ground. Like he just repeatedly gets caught in guillotines and repeatedly in anaconda chokes. He somehow muscles his way out of them. I don't really know how he does that. But I don't know why he's caught in so many of them. So I hate that aspect of when he tries to wrestle. He's not a good wrestler. He's easy to take down himself. So at that juncture, he really just relies on his power and his boxing. And I mean, don't get me wrong, the dude packs a punch. He's knocking out people like RoboCop and at 185. I mean, the dude is impressive. Most of his wins are by knockout. And the people that are beating him are people that are able to wrestle him and control him. I mean, Imavov did it, as aforementioned. Ramazan did. Dwight Grant knocked him out. But outside of that, generally speaking, he's just getting out grappled. And if he wins, he's going out and he's knocking you out. So he's really just kill or be killed, come out and just swing. He's a little technical, but he's hittable. And his strength of schedule is pretty questionable as well. Just with his wins themselves. I mean, RoboCop is a good win. But RoboCop, Gregory Rodriguez is someone that is known to have a suspect chin. So it was just right place, right time. Otherwise, other guys he's beating I've never really heard of. So, I mean, again, he's also a welterweight fighting at middleweight, so all the power to the guy. I mean, we'll see how he looks at welterweight. I've seen Mickey Gall at welterweight before, and I was not impressed. Supposedly, he's a jiu-jitsu whiz. However, in the UFC, I'm not seeing it anywhere. I don't know where I mean, he has a rear naked choke against George Sullivan, who was god-awful. And I guess he did choke out Sage Northcutt. So, and CM Punk and Mike Jackson stand corrected. All of his wins are by submission. The problem is he can't wrestle. And the problem is all of his wins are against people that can't wrestle. Jordan Williams can't wrestle, but these guys, like professional wrestlers and photographers that are 1-0, that are 0-0, I mean, did those even count? They're not even real fighters. He literally beat a photographer and a pro wrestler. Sage Northcutt was like 19 years old. I know Mickey was young at the time as well, but they're just not credible wins at all. But his losses are pretty incredible. I mean, Randy Brown, it is what it is. I think Randy Brown is pretty good, in all honesty. Jason Fabio, Diego Sanchez, there's no excuse to losing to that. Mike Perry without a coach. Let's not forget he had his pregnant girlfriend as his coach in the corner. Like, there's just Mickey Gall, his stand-up he's working on because he knows that's where he lacks. But it's not good. It's still not good. People are saying it's getting better. I guess you could say that, but it still looks stiff as hell to me. I can't get behind it. His gas tank, I can't get behind. Jordan Williams also has a bad gas tank. So in my opinion, in all honesty, should be a loser leaves town match. I love the Jordan Williams story. I don't know if he's UFC caliber. Mickey Gall, not really a story there. I just know he's not UFC caliber. So at that juncture, very low level. I just can't trust Gall enough. The pick is going to be Williams. The bet, I stared at the under pretty hard here, minus 135, as Williams does pressure. Gall has shown a suspect chin. However, I mean, his losses are all generally by decision. He does have a loss via ground and pound to Diego, but it's not like he was getting put out cold like Jordan Williams tries to do to you. The over is plus money at plus 105. But Mickey Gall could very well finish him at a submission as well. So that's where it gets tricky. The pick is going to be Jordan Williams. I guess to be safe, cover yourself on both ends because they're both kind of questionable. I would take the under 2.5. And then let's just get off that fight. Next fight of the night, we are looking at Miranda Maverick coming up against Macy Barber. So we have Miranda as a minus 150 favorite going up against the comeback on Barber at plus 120. Over 2.5 minus 220. Under 2.5 plus 170. We'll start with the future. She was just dealt a bad hand in just life, man. Like literally, this girl was supposed to be the next best thing. She came out, she was knocking out everyone, knocking out Jillian Roberts, knocking out Jillian Roberts is their common opponent, knocking out JJ Aldridge, Hannah Cipher. She came in at flyweight, knocking out everyone, and no one's really seen that before. She had a lot of hype behind her. They finally gave her a big name in Roxanne, and she blows out her knee in the first round. I mean, she wasn't looking the greatest before, but she is notoriously a slow starter. So we really don't know what would have happened. Obviously, she didn't win that fight with one leg. She fought valiantly, but there's just nothing she could do. She has to take a year off to recover. She comes back to Alexa Grasso, and Alexa Grasso is good, man. Like, that's a tough fight to come back off of injury after a year and your first career loss. Like, that's just a lot to ask a 23-year-old. Like, let's not forget how young she is. She literally turned 23 this week. So she was 22 just last week. So she's super young. It's a lot to ask of her. Her striking's really good. Her cardio is really good. Her power for the division is really good. She pressures like crazy. Her takedown defense is pretty good. Her Brazilian jiu-jitsu scares me a little bit, in all honesty. But at the same time, someone's going to have to take her down to expose that. And when it comes to her opponent, who is also super, super young, Miranda Maverick, she's also someone I just can't seem to get her right, in all honesty. I won money with her, her debut fight against Liana because she's god awful. Miranda's pretty decent on the ground. I know she does a lot of grappling competitions. Her wrestling, though, it's not that good. Really looking at it, she has a power double because she's a freak of nature with strength. Look how strong she is. But at the same time, Maycee Barber is her equal in this. I mean, Miranda's probably a touch stronger, but you're not going to find someone just as jacked as Maycee Barber in the division. Like, those are the two probably most jacked girls in the division going at it. She's young too. She's only 24. So, like, they're fighting each other, which Miranda herself was saying she hated. She'd rather them fight later on, in like title fights and such, because they're both going to be around for a while. But her wrestling, man, it comes down to her jiu-jitsu's okay. It's pretty good, but like, you can sweep her. She's definitely submission over position, so she'll go for it and then lose it and get back to her feet. Her stand-up is getting better. Don't get me wrong. I definitely see her stand-up getting better. But again, she fought Liana, who's one of the worst fighters in that division. She fought Jillian, who's one of the worst stand-up fighters in that division. It's going to look better. Your striking is going to look decent against two of the worst strikers in the division. Maycee is not a bad striker. Maycee's a very, very good striker. Maycee finally left Duke Rufus's camp and now is at Alpha Male. And in all honesty, I don't think Alpha Male is the best camp, but I think it's good for Maycee. Someone that can, like, literally, if she can keep this fight standing, a lot of girls are going to struggle with her pressure and power. I think Maverick is going to be very good. I think Maverick is going to be a top 5 girl here coming up. I just think the time in which they're fighting, her stand-up isn't at Maycee's level, and her wrestling is not as good as people think. All she has is a blast double with terrible technique. She doesn't level change. She just dips her head and tries to muscle you. And I don't know if she can just muscle Barber like that, especially Barber switching to Alpha Male, which is a wrestling heavy camp. So the pick is going to be Barber. The bet is going to be Barber as well because she's plus 120. So if you're giving me plus money on this, give me Barber. Give me the dog. I'm going to bet her too. I'm going to pick Barber, bet Barber. And we're just going to keep the train with the dogs going. We have Derek Minner at minus 165 coming up against Darren Elkins at plus 130. The line actually might have dropped down to plus 120 the last time I checked. So if you're going to do it, I'd jump on it quickly. We'll start with Minner. In all honesty, his record is insane. Yes, you look at him and you see he's 26-11. What is it? 25 of those wins are inside the distance. This man is not getting paid by the hour. This dude comes and he might be him, BJ Penn, I'm trying to think. Michael Chandler. Some of these are the best 1 round fighters I've ever seen in my life. After the second round, they're not the same people. But this first round, man, this dude is an absolute killer. And a jiu-jitsu whiz. This guy is nasty on the ground. He's very, very frightening to grapple with, in all honesty. Probably one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the division. He went toe-to-toe with Charles Rosa, and I think the only reason that ended up being a decision is Charles Rosa is another really, really good guy on the ground. He's a black belt himself, so they just kind of canceled out. And he wasn't able to submit him, but he was a better wrestler than Rosa, so he was able to get him down and hold him down. And again, that's the only decision win of his career. TJ Laramie, he slapped on a guillotine. You look at the regional scene, I mean, Terrence McKinney, we just saw knock out Matt Frivola a few weeks ago. He got him in a triangle in under a minute. You're looking at people like, even his losses, Grant Dawson choked him out, Herbert Burns choked him out, Kevin Kroom knocked him out, which is weird because I think he trains with Kroom and Grant at Glory MMA with James Krause right now. So it's kind of weird to see someone that tapped you out and knocked you out every day, and now you're training with him. Jordan Griffin armbarred him, but then he's going out and he's getting rear naked chokes and triangles. They're mostly all submissions too. Like, this dude is nasty. He is frightening. The problem is his gas tank is awful. He's finishing all these people in the first round because he can't do it otherwise. His striking isn't good. He hit super hard. He looks like he has some heat on his punches. He just has like a check left hook that he throws often, and it's effective, but he's not really going to knock anyone out on the feet unless he catches them clean. He's not really looking when he punches either. He's really just defending and throwing that check left hook. It's really all he does, and then just goes for the takedown. The problem is Elkins is a better wrestler. So if you have a bad gas tank and your idea is to just try to outmuscle him and wrestle him and then tap him out, and you can't take him down, Derek Minner is going to be in some serious trouble. I do have a little bit of pause with Elkins considering he's 37. I have a little pause with Elkins considering he bleeds and his fight could get stopped every single fight. So take it with a grain of salt. This thing, it could get a little dicey with him just because of the way he fights. And just because of just the scar tissue, it could be stopped at any point. This dude bleeds. You can flick him in the head and he's just gushing blood. So it is a little concerning, but outside of that, his striking's okay. It's not the greatest either, but it's definitely better than Derek's. His wrestling is definitely better than Derek's. And then in regards to his jiu-jitsu, it's okay. It's not bad. He's only been tapped out once in his career. And again, he's had a ton of fights, like 40 pro fights or something like that. And the times that the only time he ever got tapped out was by the champ, DeBronx Oliveira. Not a bad person to have your only submission loss to. And then he pressures a lot, and that's something that's going to break Minner. If Minner does not finish this fight in the first round by submission, Elkins is going to break him. So in all honesty, you could go two ways here. The pick is Elkins 110%. The bet, you can just bet Elkins, or you can bet the under 2.5. I mean, when I looked at it, the Elkins to win was plus 130. Under 2.5 was at plus 120, so same odds. So I took the under already. I jumped on that while the under 2.5 was plus money, considering it's a Derek Minner fight, and they can both finish. So if the line is still like that for the under, I would definitely just take the under and cover yourself both ways, because both guys can finish the other, whether it's from exhaustion from Minner or Minner submitting them in 30 seconds. Either way, that under 2.5, that's a lot of time for Derek Minner. So I definitely would take the under there. It's pretty safe. Next fight, we have another fight where we have to watch the scales. We have Kyler Phillips, the Matrix, at minus 260. Jeez. Going up against Julian Paiva at plus 200. Over 2.5 is minus 225, under 2.5 at plus 175. We'll start with Paiva. He just has a really long reach. He really utilized that at flyweight. Problem being, he has to move up to bantamweight. It's one of these where the UFC made him because he missed weight so often at his previous weight class. He definitely used that reach to his advantage. His boxing is definitely really good. He's actually a black belt on the ground as well, which is super nice. He is a little hittable, which is odd considering he's someone that was using his reach so much. But I mean, he gives one to get one, so I understand that. His takedown defense is at like 70-80%, so it's pretty good. The kid's all around good, just not a lot of pop on his punches. Just one of these tall, lanky guys, but at the same time, I mean, he gets the job done. I know that he hasn't lost to Bontarone, but that was due to Dr. Stoppage. That's not really on him. The Kai Kara France fight, people are saying that he won, and it was just wrongfully given to Kai Kara France. However, he also has a win against Zhalgas Samagulov, where I watched it, and I thought that Zhalgas won, had a bet on Zhalgas, and he was gifted that win. So they really kind of balance out. Otherwise, it's not that I have concerns with Paiva. He only has two bad things about it. One, the fact that he is pretty questionable with his strength of schedule. He was fighting a whole bunch of cans over there. He's super young. I mean, he's only 25. So they were kind of giving him soft matchups. But I mean, 6-7, 7-6, 5-1, 3-1, 6-3, 8-5, 3-3. I mean, these aren't the greatest wins here. And the fact that he's that hittable also alarms me. It's not like he's coming out here and getting knocked out by any means. But at the same time, I don't really like my fighters to be getting hit a ton. That's not really a good fight winning quality. You flip over to the other side with Kyler Phillips. He's one that was supposed to basically win the Ultimate Fighter. They really wanted him to. However, he didn't, and he was young. He's young too. He's only 26. So at the time, he was super young. He was like 21, 22. And you see him growing each and every fight. He's getting better and better. I think it's the more hair he's growing, the longer his hair gets, the longer his tricks are, and the better he's getting. Cameron Elsie's trash, but he was able to finish him quickly. Song Yadong is the one that put him on the map. I mean, Song Yadong is a ranked guy. Kyler went out there and made it look pretty easy. His striking is great. He loves space. Now, Paiva likes to pressure. Phillips loves space. So that'll be very interesting to see who's going to get their way. But Kyler can handle. I mean, he likes to counter strike as well. So if Paiva wants to pressure like that, Kyler will be fine. That's one of the biggest things I look at. Who likes to pressure at the other person, how they look backing up. And Kyler is fine backing up if he wants to. He loves space. So his cardio is great. Paiva's look shaky sometimes, but I think it was from that tough weight cut. So extra 10 pounds could help him there. Phillips' ground game is pretty decent. And when it comes to his wrestling, it's not that he's a world-class wrestler, but his timing is awesome. We're very, very reminiscent of GSP, where it's not like he's just going out there and shooting a double and muscling you. He's getting you after a strike. He's as you're throwing a hook, he's level changing. Like, it's all about timing, and that's stuff that's like hard to teach. That's pretty natural. That's flow. And I like that a lot about Kyler. He's so well versed. I think he's a great fighter. He's at a great camp over there training with Sean O'Malley and Courtney Casey. Wow. Casey, Kenny. Like, it's a good camp. He's a great fighter. The pick is going to be Kyler. And in all honesty, I don't think he's going to finish Paiva. So I would probably try to soften that blow a little, that minus 260. You can throw that in a parlay. I don't love it the most. So I'd probably just take him by decision. That's his most optimal way to finish to get a little better value on there. So either throw him in a parlay or take him by decision. I don't think he's going to finish him. And then that's going to take us to our co-main event. We have Macy Chiasson going up against Aspen Ladd. Macy is the plus 160 dog. Aspen Ladd minus 205 favorite. The over 2.5 is minus 170. Under 2.5 is plus 142. We'll start with Macy. Speaking of Ultimate Fighter, an Ultimate Fighter winner, submitting Pani Kanzat in the finals, I believe. She had a little stint at 145, but I think that was more or less just for the show. Immediately dropped down to 135 after taking a loss. She doesn't have the greatest strength of schedule, in all honesty. She also doesn't seem to strike the way I want her to. She doesn't use that long ass reach she has. She loves to clinch and just throw elbows, but she's sucking them into her. I'd prefer her to kind of just use a jab, keep them away, especially for this fight against Aspen. But she is someone that's improving. She's also not the oldest. She's pretty young too. She's 29. And you see her improving each and every fight. The Marion Renault fight was one that kind of concerned me, as well as Shayna Young, because she didn't look like it was very hard to take her down. And that's all Aspen wants to do. So I don't like that. It does look like it's getting better, her takedown. She's just overall getting better everywhere. I mean, she's good on the feet. She doesn't strike the way I would want her to with her reach, but she makes it work. I mean, she's good on the feet. Her takedown defense, it's getting better. It's getting there. Her Brazilian jiu-jitsu, she does know what's going on the ground. She'll just throw stuff up. It's not very technical at all, but she'll throw it up there, and she's caught people in submissions before. It's not like it'd be anything new to her. Vicious knees. So I mean, she's all around just a good fighter, all around getting better. Aspen, I actually think it's overrated. I saw Aspen fight Sarge live. Aspen lost the first round, in my opinion. He had to come back and rally. She just, I don't know if it's just the noises she makes as she fights that annoys me, or what it is about her. She's super young too. What is she? She's 26. She's ranked 3, which is crazy. They do not need to throw her anywhere near Nunez. Please don't do that to her. And she's probably going to win this fight, in all honesty, just because she has the style. She loves her body lock takedowns, and that is the way people are taking down Macy Chiasson, literally to a T. I did hear Macy in the press conference address it. She said that that's a takedown she's going to go for, and she said she's been working it. So, I mean, that gives me a little bit of confidence. But Aspen striking is awful. It's not good. We talked about earlier in the card, Elise Reed is punches and bunches. Oh my God, Aspen Ladd is a definition of punches and bunches. She doesn't have power in them, but she throws. Her gas tank is probably the best in the division. Problem being the weight cut, though, that division. This is another one we have to watch the weight. One, Macy's huge, so we have to see how she looks on the scale. Aspen, on the other hand, had one of the scariest looking weigh-ins ever, with just shaking. She said it was from being cold. It was a very, very bad weight cut. And then she got knocked out in 16 seconds or something like that. What was it? Against JDR. Yep, 16. I'm nice. Took her out early. She should not have fought. So, like, I'm not the biggest Aspen believer just because she's hittable. She has no striking, in my opinion. It's just a whole bunch of screaming and jabbing as she's pressuring forward. Her takedowns aren't the greatest. She's just persistent. So her ground and pound is nasty. That's really good. I just don't like the line, in all honesty, especially because she's coming off of injury. She hasn't fought in 2 years here because of her really bad leg injury. I want to say it was a torn ACL. So at that juncture, I'm starting to look at the over here. But her only loss is by knockout, and it was early. I could see one of these Macy knees taking her out. I could see her just taking down Macy and ground and pounding her. So in all honesty, I'll pick Aspen Ladd to win the fight. I'm probably not going to bet this fight at all. If I had to, I would bet the under, just in case one of those knees to the body or one of these clinch knees to the head that Macy throws knocks out Aspen, and or if she breaks Macy, or if she breaks Macy, takes her down with that body lock like she takes down everyone, and just her ground and pound is vicious. So you kind of cover yourselves both ways at plus money at 2.5. Not the worst bet in the world. Probably not my go-to. I'll see how I'm doing in the night thus far. But that would be the official bet if I were to place one. If I'm up, I'll probably throw something on the under 2.5. And then that takes us to the main event. We have the return of TJ Dillashaw coming up against Corey Sandhagen. TJ, the former champ, at plus 160 dog. Corey Sandhagen, the minus 190 favorite. Interesting odds. They're a little wide in my opinion, but I can totally see why. We'll start with Sandhagen. I love Corey. Don't get me wrong. 14-2, justifiably so. The dude is a stud. I don't see a weakness in his game. That's a correction. His wrestling. Dude has 30% takedown defense. Why other people aren't utilizing it, I don't know. He's good on the ground, but Aljo took him down and squeezed and just choked him out in like a minute 26 seconds. I mean, the dude is pretty Greenwich. And if I remember right, I think Aljo rocked him. It was a club and sub. But still, at the same breath, I mean, if you're going to beat Corey, the only way is to take him down. Otherwise, the dude has good jiu-jitsu. Dude is nasty on the feet. He's dangerous. He lays traps everywhere. You have to watch yourself with Corey on the feet. His cardio checks out. He has a significant reach advantage over most of his opponents. So you really, really, really have to watch out for it. I think he is a top 5 guy in the division. Honestly, probably like top 3. I think you have Sterling, Corey, Jan, and TJ are probably the top 4. And they could all be champ at any point in time, contingent on who they're fighting. Corey is that damn good. I believe in Corey. I love Corey. I am going to have to go against Corey here, though. Plot twist, just because Dillashaw, man, I believe him when he says he took it. Obviously, we know the story with TJ right now. He's coming back off 2.5 years because of his PEDS infraction. I believe him 110% where he says he only took the juice because he was trying to make 25. I know what it's like to have tough weight cuts. I totally get that you don't feel well. And he's never had an issue with it before. It's not like that's the first time USADA's ever tested him. But the one time where he said he struggled with a weight cut to drop down to a weight class he's never been at before, he said he wasn't going to make it without help. And I believe him. I mean, otherwise, I feel as if we would have heard things about him before. They get tested every fight. He's been in the UFC for years. How come all of a sudden he's a user? Like, this isn't normal. I mean, 2012 is when he was making his debut. I mean, he was in the Ultimate Fighter in 2011. That's 10 years of a clean record, and then all of a sudden he has one catch up with him. It's definitely the fact that he was cutting the weight. So then you look at talent by talent. I think on the feet, you could give Corey a slight edge. It's 50-50 in all honesty. 52-48 for Corey. On the ground, TJ's sneaky good, but I'll give the slight edge. You know what? I'll do 50-50 on the feet. On the ground, I'll give it 60-40 to Corey, but TJ's good enough to stay, out of trouble. But the thing is getting there. If he wants to, he can take this fight down to the ground. We all know it. Corey has a 30% takedown defense. TJ is a collegiate wrestler. If he wants to, and he's known for having good cardio, he doesn't have a problem with his cardio. I know he's getting older. He's 35 now. But at the same breath, if he could win on the feet, it's a 50-50 fight on the feet. He's elusive. He's a good striker. He has decent power. He most definitely can. But if it's a close round on the feet, he could take him down and steal the round. And he has 5 rounds to do it. He doesn't seem to have gas tank issues. So if he wants to do that every single round, he only has to get 3 nods out of the judges, 3 rounds out of them. So in all honesty, I think it's more of Corey should be the favorite, but I think he should be like a -130 favorite. Giving me +160 on TJ is a little too much, in my opinion, considering he has more ways to win. I know that they used to train together as well, and TJ asked for this fight. So obviously he was getting the better at that point. I know Curtis Blade says otherwise. He says Corey was winning, but it's kind of peculiar that TJ came back asking for this fight. He had to postpone it because of a cut, and he was hell-bent on fighting Corey. He knows something. It probably was close in the gym, in all honesty. It was a long time ago. So maybe Corey's even better on the feet now. But I think TJ knows he can take him down if he needs to. So the pick is going to be TJ. The bet, honestly, TJ does have some chin issues. So I was looking at the over very, very hard because initially I was thinking, either one goes out there and gets finished all the time. TJ has he's been knocked out twice. The Cejudo one where he couldn't even make the weight. So I really do give him a pass on that. I believe him. He struggled to make 25. And then he got knocked out against John Dodson, who's known for having hard power, just great power. And I think he just got caught. So I know he gets dropped a lot. Don't get me wrong. He's been dropped in some of his wins, like both Cody fights. Cody dropped him before he knocked out Cody. So it's suspect. I can't say he has a bad chin. So I did look at the over. I did place a bet on the over at +130. But in all honesty, I think I'm about to take Dillashaw, baby. So the pick is gonna be TJ. And if it's better odds than the over under. So I'm probably gonna place a second bet and double down on TJ. And bet TJ as well. +160 is just too much value on a former champ. So there you have it. We are looking at Vegas. UFC Vegas 32. I am really, really excited for this card. It is a great card, top to bottom. Please watch the scales. It is very, very pivotal that you watch the scales this week. Literally, out of all these fights, half of them are going to be won or lost on Friday night. Otherwise, don't forget to look for the official bets that come out Saturday morning post scales. At Stats and Stacks Podcast over on Twitter, over on Instagram. Otherwise, we're on a roll and we hope to continue to keep it going. Let's win some money, baby.